Welcome to Part 3 of the NIAC Insulation Craft Training video series titled How to Insulate Ducts with Fiberglass Blanket and Board Insulation. Fiberglass blanket and board insulations are used to insulate a variety of hot, cold, or dual temperature metal tanks, equipment, and heating and cooling duct systems, where control of hot and cold temperatures are required to save energy, maintain process temperatures, and to prevent moisture condensation. For this video training session, we will be taking you step by step through the insulation of sheet metal duct systems used for residential and commercial building heating, ventilating, and air conditioning. These systems, when properly designed and insulated, deliver a comfortable interior environment for our homes, places of work, and play. And because they are nearly always concealed in unconditioned spaces out of view, they need to be well insulated to assure conditioned air is delivered to the grills and diffusers at design temperatures, and that they are protected against damaging moisture condensation. Millions and millions of these systems are delivering conditioned air in commercial insulations all over America. Most systems are insulated with fiberglass blanket insulation called duct wrap, which has a vapor retarder facing attached to the thermally efficient fiberglass blanket. It comes with a 2-inch factory-supplied facing tab on one edge of the roll. Or fiberglass board insulation, also with a vapor retarder facing, which is not only functional but presents an attractive finished appearance. Board is used primarily where ducts are exposed to view and/or for mechanical abuse, such as equipment rooms. This video will show you how you can insulate sheet metal duct systems with both the right way, so the system will operate trouble-free and provide a comfortable interior environment. This is the duct system we will insulate. It is not a typical one, but one that has many of the different fittings, branches, and runouts you will eventually encounter on jobs. Most duct systems have these components: main trunk or riser, branch ducts, which are shorter runs leading from the main trunk or riser, runouts, which are rectangular or round, flexible, or rigid. They are short runs ending at diffusers or grills. And fittings, elbows, transitions, Ys, Ts, and dampers, which modify air direction, velocity, or quantity of air. To insulate, always start with the main trunk or riser, then the branch and runouts. Be sure you have the right safety equipment and tools. Be reminded that safe work practices and your personal protection are important in every job you work on. This includes the proper use of eye and respiratory protection. NIAC's Safety Handbook is an excellent reference to help prevent accidents and injuries. If any questions, ask your supervisor. You'll need goggles, dust mask, and a hard hat. For tools, you'll need a sharp 6-inch knife, a tape measure or 6-foot folding rule, a straight edge, shears, staple gun, an outward clinch or flare door type, brushes and adhesive, nippers for wire twisting and end cutting, and a pointing trowel. Now, let's start insulating. The main trunk is always first, and we'll use a vapor retarder faced fiberglass blanket insulation because this system is for heating and air conditioning, as most are today. Clear a workspace. Roll out a length of blanket insulation and cut a section you will need for the first course of insulation. Measure around the perimeter of the duct. If 1 1/2 inch thick blanket insulation is used, add 8 inches to the total perimeter dimension. This will allow for the thickness of the insulation at the corners plus a 2-inch facing tab. For 2-inch thick insulation, add 12 inches. Check the end of the roll as it comes out of the package to make sure it is cut off straight and square. If not, use your knife and straight edge to get it square. Then measure along each edge the distance you need and cut off this piece. Measure in 2 inches from the cut edge and cut down to the vapor retarder facing, but not through it. Strip off this piece to form a facing tab. Scrape the remaining fibers from the flap. This is now ready to apply. There are several ways to apply blanket insulation to ducts. This one is the easiest and makes a neat, professional-looking job. Place the piece over the top of the duct with the facing tab towards you. Hold on to the top and reach under for the other end. Pull it snugly around the duct, but do not compress the thickness more than 25%. If you've measured the perimeter right and added the thickness and tab allowance, it should fit just right. Staple the facing tab with an outward clinch stapler every 2 to 4 inches to securely fasten the facing tab. Start at the center and work out to the edges. If this piece fits okay, cut additional ones you'll need the same length. Continue to install insulation down the main trunk. Some ducts have standing seams, reinforcement flanges, or ribs. Loosely cover them with blanket, but pay attention to the corners so they don't puncture the facing. If punctured, tape a patch of insulation over the puncture and seal it with tape. This next course of insulation has a hanger and a round collar to cope with. When installing wrap, add hangers, split the end of the blanket, tuck it under the wire, and seal with tape. To insulate around the collar, slit the blanket to allow it to flare out around the fitting. Do the same for this square runout duct. Use your scissors to cut the blanket and let it flare out. Staple the flap and tape the seams. When you come to a transition, use the same technique. Install the duct wrap, slit the 4 corners, push the insulation away from the facing to form a staple flap. Fold down, staple and tape all seams, and rub the tape to seal. Now let's insulate a branch duct. There are several ways to do this job, but here's one that does it with only 2 pieces. First, measure the perimeter of the duct, then the length out to the end of the L and distance down to the diffuser outlet and the duct width. Using these measurements, lay out the cuts and staple flaps needed to insulate the duct from the main trunk down to the diffuser. Let's watch our expert do it the easy way. If all the measurements and cuts are right, this one piece will cover most of the duct. Let's watch. The second piece finishes insulating to the diffuser flange and is sealed off to the metal with tape. Always seal off the insulation ends this way at fire dampers and unit connectors too.